Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. My name's Kate Vandervoort. Unfortunately, we're having a couple of tech issues at the connecting up end. So at the moment, I'm going solo while Olivier figures out what's happening at his end. I also, Olivier, if you're able to make me an organizer so I can see any questions, I'd just love to do a sound test and make sure that our participants can hear us. But otherwise, if you could type in that you could hear us, even if where it is that you're tuning in from, and Olivier will be able to see at his end that all of the audio is good to go. There is nothing like tech issues to keep us all on our toes. So thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Melanie. Fantastic. Thank you, everybody. Great to know that you can hear me and I can now see your questions. So we will get started because there's a lot to cover today. And what we're going to talk about is building a cause community on social media. So how do you really build a community of people who care about your cause or your purpose and help you achieve your objectives on social media, whether that's fundraising, marketing, advocacy, support, awareness raising, education, whatever your objectives are. We want to look at what are the fundamental principles that will really help you create a community that will take action on your behalf. So I want to tell you, oh, now my slide's not moving. That's handy. There we go. I want to tell you just a little bit about me. As I said, my name's Kate Vandervoort. I did a Bachelor of Social Work when I left school. I thought I wanted to work in that space, and I pretty quickly got a bit disillusioned with the industry that I was working in. It was particularly challenging. I was working in child protection, and I just was really struggling to work within a system where I couldn't affect some kind of change. So I went into more of a career in business development, fundraising, all in the not-for-profit sector, mostly in health-related charities and organisations, and fairly quickly was in leadership roles in terms of general management and business development. But again, I started to feel a bit disillusioned with the sector, and I'm a fast mover. I'm an entrepreneur. I like to see change. I like to see things happen quickly, and that wasn't always possible in the organisations that I was working in. So in 2009, I founded Social Mediology. It actually started with a different name, and my intent was to do strategy consulting to the not-for-profit sector. But I realised really quickly that the big black hole for so many people in the not-for-profit sector was social media. It was, it was fairly early days in social media, but organisations were really struggling to get their heads around how to make that work effectively. So very quickly I started specialising just in social media. And was having a lot of success. So it ended up not being just not-for-profits that I was working with, but also with small business and eventually with large corporates. So since 2009, most of the work that I've been doing is with organisations around the culture change that needs to happen to really start seeing results. So often our organisations or businesses are set up and we've got a history or a way that things have always been done. And when new technologies like social media come in and new ways of communicating, it sometimes can be a bit of a clash with what already exists. So a lot of the work that I do is helping organisations to understand what are the changes that need to happen, what's the culture that you need to create to really embrace these technologies. So we're going to be talking about some of that today. I then last year, so because I'm so busy with my consulting work now, I haven't had the opportunity to continue running the workshops that I love running for small business and for not-for-profits. I do run the social media bootcamp for connecting up, and we do that a number of times throughout the year. And I love being able to stay connected to the not-for-profit sector. But I really wanted to create something that was a learning environment for businesses and not-for-profits to stay ahead when it comes to social media. And I know that it's such a big area and it changes so rapidly. So I wanted to create something where organisations could have small bite-sized pieces of content on a regular basis that help them stay on top of social media and really make it effective for the business or the organisation that people work for. So I found Take 10 Social. My slides seem to be moving on their own. That's a bit strange. I founded Take 10 Social in order to be able to do that. I'm just going to pause for 1 sec, and for some reason this has got automations set in, which is not how it's meant to be. So I'm just going to slideshow, transitions, apply to all. Okay, that should work. From current slide, hopefully we're all back again. Okay, so what I want to talk about today is the paradigm shift, or the, no, yep, there we go, is the paradigm shift that's often required to really embrace social media. I like this comic because it's kind of, I'm afraid you've had a paradigm shift, and that's really what needs to happen. Traditionally, marketing and fundraising has been done very much in a broadcast way. So we share our key marketing messages, our key fundraising messages, our key recruitment messages for members and volunteers, and we say that loudly in as many places as we can with the hope of connecting with our ideal target audience. Now, I know it's a bit more strategic than that, and I'm sure that you have marketing strategies that allow you to be more strategic than that. But social media turns a lot of those traditional principles on their head. It really requires a different way of thinking. So these 11 principles that I want to talk about are really about what's the mindset that you need to have? What are the fundamentals that you need to have that's really going to make this work for your communities? And I want you to think about social media as online communities. If you think about them as groups of people who are there to support your cause and take action, and if you relate to them as a community, the results will be far more successful than if you just see them as fans or followers or people who are tagging along. So the key principle really with social media is that your current donors, members, volunteers, clients, supporters, connections lead you to more people like them. So on social media, we tend to be connected to people who are like us. So I'm a 40-year-old woman, I have 2 children, I live in Queensland now. I went to university in Sydney. I've worked in a variety of different organisations. So if you look at my social networks, I tend to be connected to people with a similar education background, people who've worked in a similar industry to me. I'm connected to other mothers of children, both babies and toddlers, because that's where my kids are at. I'm connected to other people that live in my geographical location. So if any of those demographics make me your ideal avatar or your ideal target audience, then through connecting with me on social media, you have the ability to reach more people like me. And my engagement with your content on social media leads you to your next best donor, member, volunteer, whoever I am in your organisation in terms of my relationship with you. I'll lead you to more people that are your ideal donor, member, volunteer, etc. So sometimes what we do is we see social media as something that kind of sits out on the side, rather than integrating it into our organisations. And really the businesses and the organisations that do well in social media are the ones that focus on creating a culture that embraces social media, where the responsibility of that is seen across the organisation, not just with one person or one department, and where the approach is very much about creating community and connecting with our best donors, members, supporters, clients, because they'll lead you to more people like them. So I often hear in the not-for-profit sector, because I've done a lot of work now with not-for-profits in the social media and digital marketing space, and I often hear we don't want to get, we don't want to taint our donor database. So let's not put them on social media. We really want to use social media to connect with new audiences or new demographics. And that's fine. Connecting with new audiences is a good objective or a good goal to have, but the best way to do that is to connect with your best connections right now. And so that means your donors, your volunteers, your members, your clients, anyone that supports your organisation, your family. Chances are if you're passionate about your cause, your own networks are also passionate about your cause. So find ways to really integrate this into your organisation so that you connect with those people at in a regular way, and that you invite them to join your social media communities on a regular basis. Social media opens the windows and the doors into your organisation. Now, this one's a bit of a no-brainer for not-for-profits because we're pretty good in this sector at storytelling, much more than businesses are. And what social media does is it really allows you to tell your story in a more powerful way, in a more creative way, and there are so many different ways that you can do that, and you want to take advantage of all of the functionality that's available across the platforms where you're building your communities, and really find the creativity in telling your story. It's about opening the doors and the windows, being authentic, being transparent, showing behind the scenes, showing who it is that's involved in your organisation, because that's where you start to get a level of connection and build trust and credibility with your communities that will help them to take action really easily through your communities. So this one is a little bit of a challenge for some organisations. So we all know that you can't completely control your message on social media. That's obvious. We've all seen it go wrong for organisations and businesses. But what I really want to talk about here is the control that we often put around social media. So when something new comes along, and I know social media has been around for a while, but it's still relatively new, and all of the changes that are happening on a regular basis make it new all the time. So we tend to want to control that, and often businesses tend to be more risk averse than the not-for-profit sector, but a lot of not-for-profits or community organisations that are steeped in history or that have a really strong brand tend to be a bit more risk averse. So smaller not-for-profits that are more agile, particularly in the startup or social enterprise space, are more willing to take risk. But the more we control what happens on social media, and what I mean by that is some organisations say, yes, we want the benefit of social media. We want everybody to talk about us and share our content, but we're going to turn comments off because they might say something that we don't like. Or what if we get it wrong and they give us negative feedback on social media? That's a level of control that if you do that, you just stifle any potential reach. Some of the other ways I see this play out is organisations say, yes, we really want the benefit of social media, but our staff are not allowed to use social media during work hours. We're worried they're going to sit on Facebook all day. Now, if you try and control too much what your staff do, absolutely, you need frameworks in place that make sure that people get their jobs done. But if we have a culture of trusting our staff to do the right thing, allowing them to engage and share the key messages and share the story of the organisation on a regular basis can be far more beneficial than the risks that you might have with allowing that level of freedom for your staff, or that level of engagement for your staff. Now, there's a whole lot of other things to talk about that you want to put in place to make sure that not everybody's sharing everything all the time. But there are certainly places where you want to look at giving up some of that control, really understanding your risk profile so that you truly see the benefits of social media. This plays out in so many different ways, and when we do the social media bootcamp over the 6 weeks, we really explore this concept and look at all of the systems and processes and things that you can put in place that really make social media work, rather than keeping it in a little box, which is often how, particularly smaller organisations, it's often how it's often how the approach is done. That wasn't very articulate. You want to get your brand out of the middle of the conversation. Now, brand is really important, so I'm not for a moment discrediting the brand that you've built up for your organisation, and often we've invested a lot of time and money in building up that brand. But people are on social media to connect with other people. They're not there to connect to a brand. So the more that you can be human, the more that you can share the humans behind your organisation, the less corporate and structured you can be about your approach, the more impactful it will be. Ideally, in a cause community, what you want to be doing is creating opportunities to connect all of your community members on your social media profiles. They will step up and do a lot of the work for you if you've truly created a culture. So not only does the culture need to happen within your organisation, the culture needs to happen in your communities. And if you truly provide opportunities for your community members to connect with each other rather than through the brand, that's when you start to see some really powerful results with social media. So don't put your brand on everything that you share. Don't have everything that you share be about your brand. Look at how you can add value and create opportunities for connection within your communities. This next one's really important. You want to step outside of yourself as the organisation. So in the not-for-profit sector, we often are really good at telling our story. That's how we raise funds. That's how we justify our existence to our donors and our sponsors and our funding bodies, is that we have to tell our story. But often we're so used to doing that in the way that we do it that we miss some really big opportunities on social media. So if you're creating communities of people that care about your cause or your purpose, delivering to them what they want is critical. Generally, the best way to do that is to ask, what could we do on social media that would add value? What information do you want to know about what we do, how we do what we do? What stories do you want to hear? Is there research or education materials that we could produce or information that we could produce that would keep you better informed about the cause or the purpose? So I kind of see content as layers of an onion. You've got your core messages that kind of sit right in the middle, and those you want to run as campaigns, and you probably want to put some ad budget behind those on social media. There's a whole strategy obviously around how you get your key marketing messages heard. But then there's all of these other layers. So think about, what are the other things that your target audience are interested in? How could you add value to them so that you're front of mind? What can you do to deepen your connection with them, to build that trust and credibility so that when you do have an ask, when you do want them to share something, when you do want them to participate in a fundraising event, that they're happy to do that. They're ready to do that because you've added value and built up that relationship with them. So really ask your communities, what do you want from us? What could we do to add value to you through our social media communities? Now, it's not about numbers. Often we can look at other organisations and feel upset that they've got so many more followers or fans or community members than we do. The reality is that a small group in a community on social media is far more impactful if they're taking action. So you don't want hundreds and thousands of people on your Facebook page that don't take action. If they're not engaging with your content, really across any platforms, but particularly on Facebook, if they're not engaging with your content, no one's seeing your content. So you are much better off focusing on building a smaller group of people who are really engaged and connected, because they will take action. So focus on each relationship, focus on really looking at what you can do to enhance your communities, to add value so that they lead you organically to more people like them. But don't focus so much on the numbers. It's a bit of a double-edged sword. You know, we're human beings, we all like to be where other human beings are. Um, so if you go to a social media profile or community and there's 5 people and no one's saying anything, you're less likely to want to be involved. So psychologically, numbers certainly play a role. But functionality-wise or algorithm-wise, you know, the algorithms that make these platforms all work, if you have a whole lot of people on your communities that are not engaged, it's actually quite detrimental for your organisation. You want to create an emotive response. Now, again, this is one that's fairly easy for the not-for-profit sector. And some organisations find this easier than others. You know, if you work with kids or animals, then you're a fair way down the track. And I could draw all sorts of other stereotypes about particular causes or purposes that pull on the heartstrings. And we've certainly seen many, many organisations do that effectively over the years. Although again, the psychology of how you do that has certainly changed over the last couple of years. But when you're creating content, the reality is people are, I don't want to be rude by saying people are lazy, but basically people are bombarded by so much content on a regular basis that to get them to take action really takes something. And if you think about yourself, the things that you like, share, retweet, post, pin, um, on or double click on social media are the things that make you feel something. So they make you laugh, they make you cry, they make you angry, or you feel a sense of injustice. So as you're creating your content, be really conscious about what is the emotive response that you're trying to elicit and how do you do that. And I'm not talking at all about doing that in a manipulative way, because I think that really backfires now on social media if you do the bleeding heart, pull at the heartstrings, you know, trying to make people feel guilty. People don't resonate well with that on social media. Um, there's still a little bit of an element of that, but you know, your younger members and your younger demographics certainly see through that, and what they're looking for is really authentic content that they can engage with. So think about often when we're just in broadcast mode and we're sharing out our key messages, they're often pretty dry. So think about how can you create your content in a way that elicits or that encourages them to take action. And that's always about the emotion that they feel when they read or digest your content. What others say about you is far more important than what you say about yourself. Now, this again is one of those real fundamentals in social media. 96% of people trust peer-to-peer recommendations over advertising. And the reality is that what you say about yourself on social media is often seen as advertising or seen through the same lens as advertising, because you have a vested interest in promoting your organization and people see that. So if you can create cause communities of people that care about your purpose, that really deeply care about who you are and what you do, if you can get them speaking about you, that's really where the gold is in social media in the not-for-profit sector. So you want to create content that is really easy for people to share, that's easy for people to comment on and have their own, include their own experience in that, because their networks then see that and their endorsement of you. And interestingly enough, you don't even have to know the person, and we see this a lot in hospitality and review sites, that people trust reviews of complete strangers. So it's not just that people are seeing what their actual peers say, but anyone that is a volunteer, a donor, a member of your organisation, what they say about you is seen to be authentic and credible, so they trust that. So in our longer trainings, we certainly look at how do you create digital ambassadors or digital champions for your organisation. And I'm not talking just celebrities and influencers, although they really play an important role. I'm talking about everybody that you connect with on social media, supporting them, educating them in being a digital ambassador or champion for your organisation. You want to show, not shout. So what I mean by this is we often just talk at people about what it is that we do. And social media requires a much more subtle approach. It really requires you to demonstrate your services, to demonstrate your products, to showcase them in creative ways through content rather than just broadcasting the message. So we've been doing some work with a not-for-profit that runs a retreat centre, and they rent out that, so they run residential programs for people dealing with particular challenges, and they rent out their facilities to other organisations at other times when they're not running their own programs. And they rent them out to corporates and to other community groups. And so what they've started doing is, instead of posting on their social media, we're available for venue hire, it's $150 a night per person, you get 3 meals and a comfy bed, they're welcoming their venue hire organisations when they arrive on social media. So on a Friday afternoon, they might say, we really welcome the leadership team from, I'll just say Westpac, not a real example, but welcome the leadership team from Westpac who are here for the weekend. Our chef is busy in the kitchen cooking you minestrone soup. The beds are turned down and the weather is, the weather's delightful. So I just made that up off the top of my head, but they're sharing welcome messages that demonstrate that they're available for venue hire. They have a chef that cooks food. They're telling a story about what those people will experience, and that then has the ability to influence other people that read that content. So they're demonstrating what they do rather than shouting about it. My use of Instagram is fairly sporadic in my business because a lot of what I do is not particularly visual, but rather than me saying I speak at conferences or I travel around Australia or the world to work with clients, I'll take a photo out of the plane as I'm leaving Brisbane and flying to Sydney or to Mumbai, as I did a couple of months ago, and write, beautiful sunrise as I'm leaving Brisbane this morning to fly to Sydney to speak at the XYZ conference about crisis management and social media. And so what I've done there is I've said I travel, I speak publicly at conferences, this is the kind of topic that I speak about. So think about ways that you can demonstrate what you do rather than shouting about it. It's a very subtle difference, and that's often where the work comes in with social media. And if you came to this webinar because you were looking for an easy answer or a magic pill or potion that's going to make social media work for you, I'm really sorry I don't have one. I would be a very rich woman if I did. Social media takes work, and these are the kind of areas where it takes work. You need to be creative and you need to be strategic about how you share your messages, but do that in a very creative way. Now, this is the good news, is that you don't have to develop or create all of your own content. You can aggregate content. And this happens in a couple of ways. One, you can aggregate content that others have created. But two, you actually want to aggregate content from across your organisation. And what I mean by that is, most people in the not-for-profit sector, social media is not your only role. I was just reading the global not-for-profit tech report that's just come out, and I think in Australia it was only 11% of not-for-profits. I'm racking my brains to remember the exact amount, but I think it was 11%, maybe it was even 7% of not-for-profits have a dedicated social media person focused on their social media. So for most of you, you're also responsible for volunteers or members or fundraising or marketing or running events or even service delivery. You might even be the CEO or the general manager. Often social media is just part of what we do. So you want to find ways of setting up content streams that really help you to have ready access to content on a regular basis. So you don't have to create all of your own content. You can share content that's created by other credible sources, but you want to set up systems and processes, and we do a lot of this in our longer trainings, where you can actually empower the whole of the organisation to be creating content. And it's not a major time sink for people. So some people go, well, we don't want everybody involved in this. We're trying to make this less resource intensive, not more resource intensive. But it's actually far more impactful if you've got a variety of people telling the story of the organisation. And if you set up the systems and processes right, it's very easy to do, and it becomes far more efficient and effective. Now, it doesn't take away from the role of the person that needs to technically do the posting of that content, but it does alleviate some of the pressure about creating the content in the first place. And at the end of the day, you want your organisation to be known as the go-to place that shares the best information from around the world in your cause or purpose area. So that's why people follow me on social media. You know, I read a whole lot of blogs every day. I'm across all of the changes that happen in social media, and I share those changes. So rather than other people having to go and read 100 blogs a day, believe me, I don't read them all in detail, but I probably skim that much content in a day. I then pull out the gems or the things that I think are really important to my clients, to the communities that I work with, and I share that content. So that's why people follow me. So you want to set up aggregation systems that mean you've always got content on hand to share, and it's always content that's adding value so that you're front of mind and you're deepening that relationship with your audiences. Now, this one seems, again, a bit like a no-brainer, and you might just go, duh, Kate. Facebook conversations, or sorry, any conversations on social media are happening on a public stage for the world to see. Now, there's the obvious. If you don't want it said on a billboard or on the front page of the newspaper, don't say it on social media. But as we talked about in that letting go of control point, once you create content on social media, you actually don't have control about what happens to it. So we know that part. But what I really want to highlight here, and this is something that I see so many not-for-profits in particular miss out on opportunities, is that when someone engages with you on social media, so when someone asks you a question or is seeking information, what we often do is we say, thanks so much, Kate, for inquiring about volunteering. Please private message us your details and our volunteer coordinator will get in touch. And what you do by taking that conversation offline is you actually lose the opportunity to influence other people. So if you actually took the time to respond to that question and to say, thank you, Kate, for your inquiry. We'd love to have you on board as a volunteer. We open our volunteer program up once a month for interviews, or we're looking for volunteers at the moment, or is there a particular skill set that you have that you would like to share with us? So actually opening up a conversation and using that opportunity to educate other people is where you start to see the results. So don't just flick them to a link on your website. Open up a conversation. Again, this takes some work, but if you really want to make these communities work for you, it is about looking for all of those opportunities where you can open up conversation, knowing that your conversation is not really just with one person, it's with anybody else that sees that content. So NRMA do this really well. I heard their head of digital speak at a conference not that long ago, and he was saying that they look at all of the questions that come in through their call center, and they actually create content, digital content out of that. So chances are that people are searching online or searching on Facebook or searching on Google for answers to their questions before they pick up the phone. And if NRMA are creating content that answers those questions, so creating that content on social media, on their blog, then they actually have an ability to educate people, and to, if one person's asking the question, chances are other people are asking the question as well. So don't just pull people off social media and engage with them offline. Use the public opportunity to engage with other people at the same time and to broaden your reach. So I just want to check in. I'm going to talk shortly about what's coming up with Facebook. I know that Facebook is a really big issue for a lot of organisations, and there are three main areas that I think organisations should be focusing on when it comes to Facebook at the moment. But I just want to check in, are there any questions that have come out of what we've talked about? So what I might do, given I can't see any in the list there now, I might move on to just what I want to talk about in terms of Facebook. And if you have any questions, I'll come back to them just after this next slide. So there are three things that I think you really need to be focusing on with Facebook in particular this year. The first is that Facebook is very focused on live customer service. So Facebook have developed a whole lot of functionality. There's some really exciting functionality from my perspective that allow you to be really responsive to your communities when they're wanting to engage with you or ask questions. So there's the whole technical side of that in terms of the functionality, but you want to be looking at Facebook as live customer service. The reality is, if I'm looking for somewhere to volunteer, or if I'm looking for, if you happen to be in a fairly crowded space, like say a cancer organisation, if I'm looking for a cancer organisation to support, chances are you're not the only organisation that I'm going to contact on Facebook. So if you take 2 or 3 days to respond to inquiries on Facebook, or heaven forbid, don't even respond at all, you actually are missing a lot of those opportunities. So you need to be, in my view, Facebook above all else, above the other social media platforms and above email and telephone. Responding to things on Facebook and engaging with people on Facebook really needs to be your priority if you want to make this work well. You know, in my industry, if people are looking for someone to come and do coaching with them or training in-house, chances are they're asking 3 or 4 other people at the same time. And if I take 2 days to respond, they've probably already signed a contract with somebody else. Now, it's a little bit different depending on which area your organisation sits in. For some of you, you might be a peak body, for example, and you're the only place that people can go. So it's less of an issue. But if you are in a position where people have got choice as to whether they support you or some other organisation, and if you really want to make Facebook work, you need to be on top of that live customer service. So there's loads of great functionality that Facebook are rolling out every day at the moment around that customer service and being really present and engaged with your communities. The next one's around e-commerce. So where Facebook is moving to is certainly going to be around being able to transact within Facebook. In the US, their donation and charity offering is much stronger than it is here. Unfortunately, to use all of that great functionality that's available within Facebook, you do have to be a US registered charity. It may come to Australia. The biggest issue around the e-commerce, the online donation space with Facebook, is that there is no international accreditation when it comes to not-for-profits. So each country tends to have their own, but there's no national accreditation. There's certainly work underway to try and make that happen, and Connecting Up may even have some more information about that. But until there is some accrediting body that Facebook knows across the globe that, you know, that organisations are authentic and real and genuine, that they're not, you know, money laundering or doing some other illegal activity, until that happens, those functionalities won't be available to us here in Australia. Having said that, the shop function, the services function, there are all these new functionalities that are coming out that are really exciting, that can help you promote not only fundraising, but also the sale of products and any of the services that you run. So that's the next step for, sorry, I've got some, I don't know if you can see that flashing thing on my screen. So that's really the next step with where Facebook's going around commercialising, I guess, for not-for-profits and businesses on Facebook. And advertising is the other one that requires obvious attention on Facebook. There is no doubt that now you need a combined organic and paid solution on Facebook. There's lots of ways that you can do that in a very cost-effective way. It doesn't need to be big budgets. But the sooner you move to a place of knowing that a paid budget on Facebook is going to make it more effective for you, the more you'll start seeing results. And we've done some work with really small not-for-profits that have seen really quite big results. I was running a workshop for a whole lot of international aid organisations last year, and a really small organisation who work just in one Pacific island, when one of the cyclones happened last year, they put $80 into Facebook advertising, and they more than tripled their donation results from any other campaign that they'd ever run before, and it cost them $80 to run that campaign. So they're now heavily engaged in Facebook advertising because they know how targeted it can be and how powerful that can be. So they're the three things that you really need to focus on this year with Facebook. It is changing so rapidly at the moment. Definitely it's all about video. I haven't put that in there because I think that was probably last year's focus, but Facebook have said that within 5 years the focus on Facebook will be video, that it will largely be only video. And again, they've created a whole lot of tools that make that really easy for you to create video. So there's some of the fundamentals about building cause communities that take action on behalf of your organisation. Now I haven't seen any other questions come through. Please feel free to ask any questions. We will have some time still at the end, but I just want to take a couple of minutes to share with you something that we're launching this week, and that is the Not-for-Profit Academy on Take 10 Social. So I am really excited about this. I've had a vision for a long time of creating a community of people that work in the not-for-profit sector who want to know more about social media and who want to collaborate with other organisations and really use these platforms to the best of, really use these platforms successfully, and to have that be an easier way for professionals to connect. So I'm going to very quickly just tell you about the Not-for-Profit Academy. It's an online learning community for the not-for-profit and community sector. So it's purely for this sector. All of the functionality of this is available on your desktop, mobile or tablet, so it's really easy for you to engage with wherever you are. The Not-for-Profit Academy includes a monthly webinar. So we interview someone in the not-for-profit sector or a social media professional who's having real success with social media. So whether that's in marketing, fundraising, events, advocacy, partnerships or collaborations through social media, education campaigns, each month we'll actually share a case study with you and interview someone so that they can share, what worked, what didn't work, what are their best hints and tips or advice for you in the sector. In that monthly webinar, we'll also do a member hot seat coaching. So you can put forward your organisation. I ask you a series of questions in that webinar, and together we brainstorm and come up with solutions to whatever the challenges are for you in social media. So whether that's a particular campaign that you want to work on, or whether there's a particular crisis or reputation issue that you're dealing with, or whether it's just about a bit of an audit on your social media and what are some of the things that you can do differently. And then there's the live question and answer as part of that webinar. We also share as part of the online community weekly not-for-profit specific content ideas. There are strategies, tips and templates for your social media toolkit. So this Academy, it builds over time. So we're just launching this month, so we're starting from scratch, but as the community builds and as content is generated, there'll be a database or a bank of content for you to engage with on a regular basis. And the thing that I love about the Academy that I'm really excited about is that the content is driven by the participants. So whatever your biggest challenges are, you can put forward suggestions or questions or ideas for content to be created that supports you moving through whatever the biggest challenges are for you in social media. I share the latest developments and updates that are happening in social media. And you get access to the Take 10 Social member-only Facebook group. This is a really lovely group. I've actually just run a 14-day social media challenge, and we had 150 businesses and organisations that participated in that. I'm running it again in a few weeks, so if you're part of this, you'll definitely get that as part of the Academy. But the collaboration and the support that happened in that group for those 14 days was really heartwarming. You know, businesses offering suggestions and feedback and people being able to test ideas. They were celebrating their wins and sharing the things that were really working for them, asking questions of each other. And I did regular live streaming into the Facebook group to talk about particular topics of interest. What you also get as part of the Not-for-Profit Academy is access to all of the masterclasses on Take 10 Social. So the first one has launched, which is the Facebook Masterclass. So you get immediate access to that as part of your membership. And the Facebook Masterclass is 6 weeks or 6 modules that cover everything you need to know about Facebook. So what kind of Facebook page, all of the settings in the back end. We then look at the front end. How do you make a visually appealing page that has all of the right calls to action? We do more in depth about how to build a community on Facebook. It's all about the strategy. So what content works on Facebook, what customer service tools are available to you, how do you build a customer service strategy? We cover Facebook advertising. We then look at insights, so how do you measure your success on Facebook? And then we do a whole lot of advanced stuff, so things about you know, using Power Editor and Business Manager, 360-degree photos and videos. So that Facebook Masterclass, the whole idea with Take 10 Social is that all of the snaps, the video content, is all less than 10 minutes. So you can easily do that in between other things during your day, or you can sit down and learn in kind of blocks of content, whatever is going to work best for you. But with the Facebook Masterclass, the best thing about that is that I update those videos as things change on Facebook. So for $37 a month, the Not-for-Profit Academy gives you access to the whole Academy on the Take 10 Social website. It gives you access to the member-only Facebook group, the Facebook Masterclass, as well as future masterclasses. Now, the other ones that are launching this year are Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Pinterest, and blogging. So throughout the year, you'll have access as they launch to the other masterclasses. And you get all updated content in the future. So whilst ever you're a member of the Not-for-Profit Academy, you get access to any of the changes that happen. So I know that, I'm not sure if Olivier has the link there, but I know that he's going to send it to you afterwards with the recording of the webinar today, and I'd love you to join us. It's going to be a real thriving community of not-for-profit professionals who really share and collaborate around social media, and I've kept the price really low so that it's affordable and accessible, so that you've got ongoing learning and support. And I really encourage any of you who really want to embed social media into your organisation and get all of those foundations and structures right. The social media bootcamp, which we're running with Connecting Up in a couple of months, is a perfect place to get all of those fundamentals in place. Now, I'm just having a quick look at these questions. Yes, Angie, the address it looks like Olivier might have lost contact. So the address isn't in the chat box, but it will be emailed to you straight afterwards. And Ellie has asked, is there a way to identify what time people are most engaged on social media? Yes, there certainly is. That's available in the insights of your Facebook page. Without being able to do screenshots and kind of going into that in depth, I'm not sure if it's Ellie or Eli, sorry. it's a bit hard to do that just verbally, but all of that information is absolutely accessible through the Insights section. And there is a real technique to when you share content, and it's very dependent on your target audience. If you really want to get into that in more detail, that Facebook Masterclass is certainly a really good place for you to be able to do that. So that is the end of the webinar around creating cause communities that take action. I hope you'll join the Take 10 social community so that we can all learn from each other and take further action, and certainly keep an eye out for the social media bootcamp with Connecting Up, because that's a great opportunity with live coaching to really embed these technologies into your organisation and to see some really solid results. So thank you very much, everyone, for being here today. If there aren't any further questions, we'll say goodbye, and I look forward to connecting with you again in the future. Goodbye.